And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Here I am, your Sensei Al Bob. Who is that? Santa Claus? Who is it? Well, they hung up, so I don't know. Let's see. Oh, Horst. Oops. Oh. Hey, buddy. Yeah, you just called me. What's up? Yeah. Oh, I'm doing good, buddy. I'm doing good. It's on the edge of springtime. I mean, it was a little nippy 18 degrees this morning, but today this afternoon, it's like in the 50s. So spring is almost here.
People out doing, and now today is the first day we have quite some sunshine.
No, good. Have you seen my brother this season?
Yeah.
How's he doing?
Who? Your brother?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't heard from him. Nothing. He must be happy.
He's well, I know he's in Florida, but I don't know what he's up to. Really, I haven't heard him from him in years, so I have no idea.
No.
Well, you okay? You happy? Everything is good?
Yeah. All the best to you. Thank you for calling me.
Okay, buddy. I always think the fondest of our time together. So that's my cuz, and he is John Steinbeck's second cousin. Horst is my third cousin. John Steinbeck, the author, his mother was my mother's cousin's sister. So, John Steinbeck used to come to Thanksgiving along with Thomas Merton, which was always fun. And the three of us would sit at the kiddie table, me and Johnny, my father's second brother, son. And that kid was nuts, right? But he was loads of fun. And I always enjoyed, we had, all the grown ups were over there and the cool kid table over there. And John Steinbeck, me, and Thomas Merton and Johnny um, and Johnny was a great guy. I mean, he was gay from the instant he popped out. I mean, he was like, whoa! But he was so much fun. He was past gay. I don't know how many folk know people who are beyond gay, right? And that was John. And John was passionately in love with everything. He loved everything. He loved his sneakers. He loved his clothes. He loved the animals he'd see in the backyard. He loved board games. His whole closet was full of board games. It was like, and he was just one gigantic chucklehead. And I could like egg him on, and we would do like one time. My father always had to prove how rich and famous and groovy he was. And so he always belonged to some club, and then he would have everyone over to the club to have dinner and say, "Oh, order whatever you want." And then he'd tell the guy, "Just give everyone crackers." And it was always really a trip. So I remember one time Johnny and I were in a big round table. You know, my dad, my mom, all of us, all six of us, and my dad's two brothers and their four or five kids. And so there's at least 15 people at this gigantic round table in this gigantic dining room where everyone's dressed up to show how rich they are and their yachts are all out there. And anyway, so um, my cousin and I, Johnny, were like, um, you know, teetering on the back legs of our chairs, and we were like just bound, and no one was even paying attention to us. And he lost his balance, and he put out his arm to grab me, and I lost my balance, and we went over and we just kicked that table just frigging right where it flipped it over, and all the food was on it, and all the food went flying all over all of these people who were living and eating in this fancy dining room, showing what groovy people they are and how rich they were. And every got like mashed potatoes on their head, and you know that was one of and no one until Johnny died of AIDS. And when Johnny died of AIDS, it was really sad because everyone, he went off, he went to college in San Francisco and had a great time, and then he came back to New York and became, like a bookkeeper or something, some boring job. But he would go out. I was building discos by then. Johnny was like in his prime, and then around 79, 80, he got AIDS. And no one knew what it was, and it was like, oh my God, I'm scared. Can't breathe. And that's one of the things that motivated me to investigate. I was working for this company, and things like CAT scan and MRIs were just being invented and installed, and what you call it, HMOs were coming online. Oh, we're big corporations. We can make healthcare work better than what's going on now. Blah blah blah. And now we got what we got, right? And so Johnny was dying, and no one wanted to take care of him. His parents kicked him out of that, wouldn't take care of him. And he had given all his money to his parents. And he made, when he was, working, he was great at everything he did. So as a bookkeeper or whatever he was doing, he was doing pretty good. He had his own little place in New York, and then he got really sick and couldn't work. No one would take care of him, and people, the HMOs stole all his money. And then he stayed, he had cancer, his parents said. And then once it was, oh, he has AIDS, they threw him out. So I went and got him, and brought him to John Hopkins. And they were actually trying to figure out what AIDS was. And so I signed him up as a lab rat, right? And he at least had really good health care, had a nice place to stay, people to take care of him. And there were other people in there who were his friends. He knew from back, from the day, just, 4 years ago, when in the 70s, everything was woo. And so that scene from Forrest Gump, where Forrest's girlfriend, she, after the anti-war movement, she becomes a disco queen. And, she's walking on that ledge of the guy's apartment, 30 stories up, and she's almost ready to woo. That was the time. I was building nightclubs in that time, and those were the people who were going to it, right? Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if any of you guys saw my earlier show an hour ago, when I was in the old timey place, and I was kind of talking about how there is no difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, right? And so this is a good example. And the media is like churning us up to have ready to go into a civil war, And Tucker Ferguson is going to be Donnie's vice president, right? But anyway, here, listen to this one.
Entitled "Trump is Losing It," New York Times opinion columnist Jamel Bowie compared Trump's feebleness to the breathless coverage of President Biden's age. Quote, "Biden may be unable to do the job at some point in the future. Trump, it seems to me, already is. One of those is a lot more concerning than the other." Jamel Bowie, New York Times opinion columnist, joins me now. Jamel, I like your column, and one of the things, and this is a hobby horse of mine, so I'll just ride it for a moment, which is, I do think that because people don't see him speak at length extemporaneously much anymore, they've lost sight of how completely incoherent he sounds when he does.
No, I think that's right. I think Trump's great political advantages is that when he's out of public view, people just sort of like forget about him, and everything they don't like about him is sort of not in their face. But if you just like watch his recent appearances at rallies and public events and such, he's incoherent. And I believe it's something we call him. He speaks in jing because, as you mentioned earlier, he was president. And it seems so strange to me that
people forgot he was president.
So much coverage of him talks like it's essentially speculation, but no, he was president of the United States for 4 years. I remember it. I saw it. And
all you got to do is think,
his NATO riff over the weekend. That would be troubling even for just a candidate, but he was president and he should know. And treating it as if it's like, oh, that's just Trump, doing his thing. My view is no, that's not just Trump doing his thing. That's the former president of the United States demonstrating not even that he has like a difference of opinion with regards to NATO, but he doesn't understand what the thing is.
Yes, I mean, I think at many basic levels, he does not understand the most basic things of health insurance, what Medicare is, the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, like basic things that you would expect a president. We also saw, I mean, to me, the big thing that we blocked out is COVID, because we saw how that lack of knowledge, curiosity, that incoherence all came together in the response. And the ludicrous things from the
Clorox from the put a UV light up their ass.
The inability to actually process and make decisions about new information to a tangible effect in terms of how bad the response was. And again, that was where it all happened, and it all happened before us, but I do think people have blocked it out.
And so Trump takes umbrage to Ukraine, and he's and in a way, see, everything kind of works out, right? And this is why I keep saying that everything is scripted, because everything is so off kilter, so insane, so nuts, so neo-insane clown party. I mean, that is the political texture of the world around us. But that's what it was, back in the Greek and Roman days, the Egyptian, the Mesopotamian. Oh, you look at, because those guys wrote everything down, and you can go read it. It's been digitized in English. You can see what those morons did. And we're doing the same thing those morons did. Because the same folk who are behind the curtain, just like the Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy's in there talking to big fiery big head and Toto pulls back the curtain, there's this little bald old guy in a business suit turning wheels and hitting switches. That's what's going on, kids. I mean, that's what that movie was about. Follow the yellow brick road. What are those yellow bricks? That was the gold in Fort Knox. They got rid of it. They amortized us. We are amortized. Instead of having gold backing our greenback, it's us. You guys don't know that. You don't know you're a slave, right? And the white people are being played because, look, all those black people are taking that stuff that you might have that. You never had it before, but you might have it. And not really. So wake up. Wake up. And what's going on, like I said, what's going on in Israel and Ukraine is just scripted. Because no one in their right mind would do what those morons are doing, right? Now, I can understand what Hamas did, because they were being painted into a corner, into oblivion. If they didn't do anything, if they just stayed in their open air concentration camp, just living on the scraps that Israel would allow. And see, the thing is, Israel, if you go to the Old Testament and read what God was talking about Israel, you're a harlot, you're a bitch, you're stealing my cigarettes and my loose change. Meaning that is, and it's not the Hebrew nations, it's not the people. And the people in Israel are are being, mind controlled by the media environment around them, right? They don't, they kind of know what's going on, but they don't, right? And so they're kept in a state of fear, just kind of like what we went through with 9/11, right? Why we allowed all of the craziness to go down for 20 years, right? And why did we obliterate, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and then all those places in Africa? Well, we got about 20 wars going. Yeah, we got thousands of people dying a day on our nickel, and we are, could be held responsible for all of this stuff we're doing. But see, we're not doing it. It's the corporate entities and they're not even, what's behind the corporate entities, right? That thing behind the curtain. The high, what's that? The high table. Now there's all these movies and all these TV shows, and it's all in our face. We can see what's going on, but we don't even like Trump is, forget about it. They're both old guys who don't even know where they are, and they have been played. They have been pruned. They have been, Donald Trump. His only reason he's president is that he was schooled. His only claim to fame in reality, because everything he did on his own, he was a total failure. But the only thing he really made any money on was his TV caricature, The Apprentice, and he was The Apprentice to be president. That's what that. If you don't understand, that's what that TV would show. You're fired. That's all he did before you're fired. He went through more people than anybody else who was ever president. Right? Hello, who is that? I can't. Oh, Margaret Artis. Hey there, Margaret. So and this is nothing new. What was going on with Truman? Same thing. That guy was way out. He allowed that the National Security Act in 1947, which basically turned the United States into martial law. Since then, we've been under martial law since then. Just all of them, economic ups and downs. Every 10 years, we have a bubble. Well, that's because people were pumping up that bubble to make just unbelievable amounts of money. We had free cash to corporates and billionaires, not you and me, So that's kind of my little snapshot of the moment. And the next 8 months between now and the we're just going to pump the people up. There's something on the order of maybe 20 million folk who are rabid mega guys, and there's probably I don't know how many millions who are ready, got their ARs all ready, and they don't have a clue about what's going on, or even these morons haven't even shot their gun. I mean, most of these, um, you know, um, shooting episodes in our culture now, right? Mass shootings, in schools, and it's like the Super Bowl parade, and these guys don't even, they don't understand. It's like the Manchurian Candidate. Go read that book. Go watch the movie with Frank Sinatra. It's like now me. I've been, watching this all go down for the last 70 years. I've been aware of it. When I saw that when my dad took me to up there in New Mexico at the Nevada flats, and I watched a nuclear, ground burst nuclear weapon out in the desert when I was 6. You know, that gave me a worldview of, oh, things aren't what they seem to be, are they? Because when that sucker went off, it was like 3 in the morning. It was darker than dark. And all of a sudden, everything was lit up brighter than sunlight. Right? And as that mushroom cloud went up, you could see demons in there. It was a dimensional vehicle. And that's why they stopped blowing them up, in the air, right? Because if they put them underground, they could at least kind of curtail the exposure to the public, right? And they call it, fallout, but it's a lot more than fallout, kids. If you go into understanding the occult and esoteric, it's nothing like what the general, good old Margaret Artis. He could give you a nice little dissertation on all of that, and I was part of it. But I never, joined the club. I would go along just to see how far they would, take me along, so I could see what they were doing. And that was fine by me. And they paid me real well, and they had great parties and really cute girls. But I didn't join, I didn't, because I have always been in service, since that since I was born, really. From 0 to 10, I got sick all the time. And every time I really, ended up in the hospital, I was delirious. I was like, Jesus was right over there. Death was over there. God was floating around somewhere on the ceiling. And hey, keep going, kid. You're doing fine. Yeah, we got your back. Don't worry about it. Right. So and everyone has that experience, but everyone wants to. I'm not seeing it. I don't see it. I don't see it until they say that. They beat their head in the sand. I don't see it. I'm taking that drink now. I'm smoking a blunt. I'm all of those, all the addictions, so we don't have to deal with the spiritual intent of what this life is about. You know, it's not about living forever. It's not about getting a big house, big fancy car, lots of money. What's my net worth? My net worth is zero. My spiritual worth is right up there, right? I mean, I live on $400. I live like and rich people, as the rich people move in here and they get really annoyed. I keep saying, I live like a millionaire on $400 a week. I mean, a month, and they get upset and they watch it, and then like one guy, you don't make enough money to be here. You need to leave. I said, no, I don't. I've been here 20 years, moron. You've only been here 4 months. Good luck with that. See what happens. That guy committed suicide because he couldn't. Every time he came up here with his family that had no TV, no cable, no this, no that, and all they could do is argue and scream and slam doors. And I mean, I used to be able to hear them. I'm on the other side of the mountain range. I could hear them screaming at each other. It was like he looked for everything he could complain about and justify why his life was. I'm a professional person. I live in the real world. That's what he said to me once. I live in the real world. And I'll just buy you out. I said, good. You want to buy this place? $220,000. What? I mean, I bought that place for $12,000. How can you? I said, good. You want to get me rid of me? $220,000. But you said the other guy $120. So I said, yeah, but you're an asshole. So $220. And now they're pretty. One guy's in jail. One guy's in a mental institution. The other guy killed himself, and everyone's left. So I'm back to it being a nature preserve. I don't know how long it's going to last, but because that's just in my forest range, right, in my 2 square mile zone. But you go out there 2.5 miles out onto the only county road we have in 200 square miles, and it's like tractor trailers and RVs. And when I got here 23 years ago, there was nothing. You could sleep on that road. Now it's like traffic all the time. But it's, I'm 2 Sawtooth mountain ranges from it, right? It's about 2.5 miles from me. And you go on this one road that's barely paved, and then potholy, and then a dirt road, and then you go on a Forest Service road, which is totally a mess, and then you go on another crappy road, and then you find me. And so, and I picked it that way, and I'm like between, they could nuke any of the big towns, right? Asheville or Kingsport or Oak Ridge, and those are all targets. They're all strategic targets, and they could nuke them. It wouldn't bother. All I would see is the sky lit up a little bit. And the way the wind blows, I would be pretty lucky. I mean, I'd probably die of radiation, but no quicker than I'm going to die anyway. Like this morning, I had a kind of a tough morning. It was like 18 degrees in the man cave. It was like I kind of pop my head out of my little I like have a ton of sleeping bags piled on top of me, and sandwiched in there is my electric blanket. So underneath that, I was toasty. Pop my head up, my eyebrows started to freeze, and when it's cold in your house when the cup of coffee is frozen solid, it's cold. Right? So I bravely unplugged my electric blanket because it was already toasty under there, and then plugged in my electric radiator, and I put the clothes I was going to wear on top of them, and I basically stayed warm in there, fell asleep, and and I kept waking up, and everything hurt, and everything hurts every morning. I pray, I talk to God, and then I get brave and just pop out of bed naked and put on the warmed up clothes and then go out and do my katas. If you ever watch me doing the broom step and sweep, that is the basic dynamic of Tai Chi. Right? And so I go and do that. When I do that, it loosens up everything, moves everything around. I got a good, 15 minutes left of my battery, and 7 of you there. So good to see 7 of you there, and we're still live, and yep, still moving along. So how about some more thumbs up? Get some people to sign on here. And what do people have to remember, guys? Put stuff into capitals. I can't read it in lowercase. I really can't read what what's his name? Natural. Yeah. Sorry, I can't read what you're saying. Come on, put it in capitals so I can read it. See, Jamie knows how to do it. See, I can read what he's saying. So put it in capitals so I can read it. I can bear, Okay, there you go. The thin membrane between worlds. Yep. And so people don't realize we live in a multi-dimensional world. If you get into string theory, if you get into the kind of we're noticing, we realize that the universe is not what we think it is, especially when we realize that the majority, like 98% of the mass in our universe, just our universe, not all the other universes, just ours, is what is known as dark matter. We can't see it, we can't taste it, we can't measure it. We can measure it by its effect on the matter and things in our universe. So anyway, we are really, and see, the really interesting thing, if you go read guys like Plato and Socrates and Euclid and a whole bunch of other Greek philosophers who were, the philosophers were scientists, they were scholars. They weren't stuck in one. They were poets, they were playwrights, they were mathematicians, they were historians, they were, you name it, they were it, right? That whole school of the academy, right? And Plato wanted to put it all in a academy so they wouldn't get knocked off. Like, even the politicians were getting knocked off, but they were trying to save their butt, basically, and their position in history and time. But, they made steam. They made a steam engine in the Greek times. And they said, oh, well, that's a cute little toy. They didn't because they weren't thinking of monetizing everything. They weren't in the monetizing thing. The Egyptians, they were into monetizing, and they were more into the military industrial complex. Not what's good for the culture or the masses or whatever. So, because they were making all these things to these gods that kind of existed, but not on our plane. They had the magicians of their time had what we have. It's called looking glass. We went into Iraq and Egypt in 91, not because Moron Boy went into his neighbor that used to be Iraq. No, we went in there because we took our army. And did we go into Baghdad? Did we mess with it? No, we went straight up to the north there near Egypt, where all of this stuff the Germans and French had found and they weren't going to share with us. We just took it all. Then the only reason we went into Baghdad was we went in there with the Third Army and we surrounded their museum of natural history. And we took all the artifacts that were the keys to the stuff we found up in the desert. That's what it was. And I keep telling people this, and then it kind of slips out about that's what it was. I've been saying this for the last, when I found out about it, and I found about it in the 70s, knowing, and they were like planning to do it in 91, we're going to go. And this stuff, that's when I started to realize all this stuff is scripted, gang. And it's in our face. You don't have to be a scholarly guy like me. No, it's right there. It's like on, It's the basis for all the cartoon shows, all the stuff you see on the platforms, you know, Amazon TV shows, all of that stuff. Strange, whatever that thing was, strange world, strange stuff. When a kid got lost on the other side and he communicated with Christmas lights. How do you feel about Old Testament God and nature? Well, first you have to realize that everything that we think is natural it's in another dimensional. We don't really, we're never given the 411 on what's really going on. If you read the Bible and really read it, you realize, oh my God, this stuff is, especially in Lamentations and uh, Jeremiah was a bullfrog, the weeping prophet, that guy lived 900 years, right? And Methuselah was either his son or his cousin. Came from a family of really old people, and he was crying because he was seeing all this crap going down, and he just, why don't they learn? Blah 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 blah. And it's in the Old Testament. You read, like I said, Jeremiah and Lamentations, and it's in there. And what I love about Lamentations, God is talking in first person about Israel, like it's his girlfriend, and like that bitch, she stole my cigarettes and my, and he would give them 70 to 120 years to straighten up. If they didn't, he didn't whack them. Other people whack them. That those guys diss them. Like when Egypt went in there and when Babylon went in there and Mesopotamia went in there, they took down the walls of Jerusalem a number of times. And all the people who did it with, like the people who were weak and innocent, and Israel messed with them, just like they're doing now. And then those people said, screw that, went over, staged right, spent a few years, got their act together, and came back and ate Israel's lunch. So what Israel's doing now is the same thing they did in Lamentations for almost 600 years. 7 different times, exactly what's going on now in the strip. And to say, a land without people and a people without land. Like that means anything, except I'm going to steal your neighborhood. We're redlining this, they redlined the, the strip, and didn't let any food, medicine, for a good 18 years now. What do you expect Hamas, the people, to do? And people going, I hear all these scholastic morons want to, go toe to toe with me about stuff like this. And they call me up and we talk. And they're a joke because they say, it's all because, the Palestinians, pay money to the people who, kill or throw a rock at a soldier, and then that kid gets shot, and then the parents get money from. Well, wouldn't that be nice? But no, that's not the reason this is all going down. They just don't know how to play the game. They're blah blah blah. They're all about blah blah blah. And it's like, like I said, the Bible, it's right there. It's all there, and I've been now studying. So I've in the last year and a half, I've been reading the Bible a lot because I go to 3 different churches. They all take it on 3 different ways, and I go mostly to Bible studies where I talk like this. And at like when October 7th happened, and the Pentecostal church I goes to, we're all like, "Oh, good, the end times are coming." Blah 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 blah. I said, "No, kids, sorry, not going to happen." And I said, "Oh, by the way, a third of the people who, are getting whacked in the strip are Christians. And oh, by the way, one of those hospitals that are getting blown up, you paid for." And they go, "What are you talking about?" And the lady who runs the book accounting, she goes, "Oh, yes, because they give all this money to go find Christians in the promised land, right?" And so, they have put in the last, 60 years, sunk a lot of money into the Gaza Strip and other places in the Mideast to, you know, back up Christians, even in Israel. And what's truly interesting in Israel, if you're a Christian or you're Muslim or you are an Arab of whatever, or if you're even something else like the guys who are the Jews that are Sephardic from Russia and who don't look like the white European Jews, like they don't look like the Anishinaabe, they don't look like the Hasidim or the Lubavitcher, and now I can talk about this because I lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and for 4 years, my landlord was a rabbi who had a Lubavitcher, meaning a rabbi school, because I could read Hebrew and I was interested in, um, you know, the occult side of Judaism, and no one else was. He put me in his school, and now I have a beard, so I could kind of fit in, but um, and what he really was trying to do was hook me up with Jewish girls so I could spread my seed. So because the Hasidim looked like the girls were these, like Wonder Woman, red hair and the guys were like these little, Coke glasses. They look like little worms, right? And he knew that it was really interesting. You go down Roebling's, right? One side was all Hispanic, the other side was all Hasidic. And the Hispanic guys worked in the Hasidic factories along the river, East River, from the Domino's to the Brooklyn Navy Yard. All these factories make, all the stuff that's made in China was made by the Hasidims. Wow. So anyway, you would see these ladies out with their perambulators, the carriages, and they had ones that had like 7 kids, not just one kid, and it's 7 kids, right? And there would be these 3 or 4 girls that looked like Wonder Woman, red hair. They were ready to, and then there were like 2 or 3 or 4 little wormy guys who were only, 2 years old and still had Coke bottle glasses and they were 2 years old. And then there'd be 1 or 2 brown skinned guys with a yarmulke on, and they looked good. They were like had muscles. They were like, yeah. And that's from my rabbi. He was doing that, right? So I had a lot of fun with that guy, He and I once got a little too drunk on the wine, and we were trying to make our own golem. He said, "You're a scientist. Let's make a golem." So that was interesting. Let's see what you need is the fur hat. Yep. I have one of those somewhere in my magic box. I don't buy anything anymore except when I go to the Dollar Tree. Look at this. I went to the Dollar Tree and they were getting rid of all this stuff. It's not even St. Patrick's Day, I got this and the colors, and something to look, business-like. I got 2 of them. Got some bling. I'm ready. And in the old days, they used to give batteries in these things, but now this thing, disco light, disco ball in your hand. So, this is the only stuff I buy. I spent all of $7, and they were getting rid of their gloves, their winter gloves. These were 25 cents a piece. I bought about 5 pairs, right? And this hat, 25 cents. You can't beat this stuff. Praise the Dollar Tree. The Chinese guys are making all this. So the Hasidim used to make this stuff back in the day. And I lived in a factory that was the Chungking. Did you ever hear Chungking Chinese food? Well, the Chinese didn't make that. The Hasidim did, right? And I lived in a warehouse, and I was surrounded by cases and cases and cases of fortune cookies, right? That were made like in 1955, right? And I used to go around as an artist. I used to move all over buildings. So you grab it and you get a fortune, right? And I stuck them. Was living down. Well, I had a place, not living. I had my healing practice on Pearl Street, and I did all kinds of stuff to all of those Jamie Dimon's bank and J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank and every bank that was down there, and all the guys who were selling stuff, So let's see. Yep, I'm ready for parody. Yep. And so, don't I look like a Greek god here, just in this stuff? Did you ever see, the guy who throws the big hammer? And they made a few movies of him. He's an Australian, good-looking guy, and his best buddy is this rock guy that got kind of stuck in this jail and finally got out. And they have a bunch of little episodes with those guys doing stuff. And he goes up against the gods, and his dad is pissed off at him, so he kills his best friend, turns him into dust. And basically, our hero, our Australian guy with a big hammer, he's there, and he is basically naked, right? And so his schlong is, all the girls are going, woo. I don't think there's any parody there. So, how are we doing with the battery? Are we in the red zone yet? Oh, yes, we're in the red zone. Uh-oh. There we go. Back. We're back. But I got to go because when my laptop dies, the battery, while I'm doing this show, it's not happy. So, okay, we're going to go. Talk to you guys later. Give me a call. I will. I'll give you a buzz. Okay. I'm going to call you right now, maybe.